Good morning, everyone. I think we can the participant John. Give us a couple of minutes before we get started. Thanks for joining. We're just giving another minute to get started. Good morning, Shyam. Okay, I think we'll get started. I'm sure more folks are joining as we start. So first of all, good morning, good evening, good night to everyone all over the globe. Hope everyone is safe, your family is safe and healthy. First of all, thanks for taking your time to register for this webinar and also participate in this session. So today we have a detailed agenda in terms of how we can leverage the power of AWS along with Intel and LTI services to unlock new possibilities in our SAP landscape and ecosystem. We have a few select SMEs and individuals from all three organizations joining in this webinar. Amy Dosher, she's the Intel America Sales Development Manager. I'll let Amy introduce in a second. Then from AWS, we have Sunny Patwari, who's a Senior Partner Solution Architect. He'll be walking through how we can leverage the innovation and power of AWS to get maximize your investment from your SAP workloads. And we have DJ, who heads our LTI, SAP, and AWS practice. He'll talk through some of the trends and drivers which we are seeing with our customers and the polling we did with our customers on what drives the adoption of cloud and specifically AWS and modernizing SAP. So we'll cover that over the next 45 minutes. A couple of quick ground rules. Any questions you might have as we go along in the session, please free to just chime in on the chat window. We'll try and answer as many of those questions as possible. And if there are questions we may not be able to cover as part of this session, we'll follow up that with you with some specifics as a follow-up to this webinar. Also, as part over the course of the next hour, we'll also be polling a few questions which might be of interest. And so you'll see those questions coming up at the poll window as we go along with the presentation. So it'd be great if you can respond to it, and it'll be interesting to get some of the inputs from the audience as well. So a quick introduction about myself. I head the SAP sales function at LTI, responsible for our cloud sales in the North America region. I specifically focus on a few verticals within LTI. So I will be kind of moderating the session as we go forward. We have Amy. Amy, if you can introduce yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Amy Dosher here, and as mentioned, I'm with Intel, and my current role is the Sales Development Manager covering AWS as a partner. Prior to this, I actually covered SAP for about 4 years, still at Intel, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Sunny, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Ganesh. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everywhere. I'm Sunny Patwari, Senior Partner Solution Architect at AWS for SAP Workloads. I help my partners migrate customers' SAP workload to AWS and run them successfully.
Thanks, Sunny. Thanks for being here. DJ.
Hello guys, this is Deep Joy. I go by DJ. I'm glad that I'm a part of this webinar. In the current role, I head the SAP on AWS practice for LTI. I will interact with you guys more on the upcoming slides. Thank you, Ganesh.
Thanks everyone. So I think the flow we've set for the conversation is first we'll start with playing back some of the information and polling survey results which we polled across our customer base and across the industry leaders in the market. So DJ will walk you through some of those insights, which I think will be pretty interesting to see the trends which we are observing. Followed by Sunny will cover how AWS can help unlock new possibilities with the SAP landscape. And then Amy will talk about how the partnership which Intel has with SAP and AWS can be brought to bear, right, to maximize the value from investing on AWS and SAP. So with that, I'll let the floor to DJ. DJ, if you can just start with the survey playback.
So guys, welcome to this webinar. And before we actually get too much into technical details, right, certain things I just wanted to run past you, right? So what we did is that we conducted a survey along with Gatepoint Research. And this survey basically ran for about 3 months, right? And the idea was basically to understand how the market is shaping up for SAP on cloud overall, and what are some of the priorities of the customers, right? So effectively, whatever we do from LTI perspective, AWS and Intel, we all work together to make sure our customers are one of the most happiest customers in this world, right? And that's why we thought that this survey makes sense for us to conduct and ensure that we get the pulse of the customers, what they are thinking, right? So from the survey perspective, we conducted this survey across about 100 customers across North America, covering various verticals, various sizes, and various industries. So it's basically, I would say, a homogeneous industry insight survey which was conducted. And one of the key questions, there were, I would say, close to about 15 to 18 odd questions, but we highlighted some of the key questions which are very pertinent to today's discussion, and you will eventually see that these questions come up. So one of the questions is, how cloud geared are our customers and what they're thinking about cloud, right? And no surprise to us, about 93% of the customers are already on cloud fully or partially. So cloud is on their radar, and cloud is nothing new to them, right? And it's just a matter of time when they move either 100% to cloud, or they move most of their landscapes to cloud. And this is not, I would say, an finding which astonishes us. We are seeing this trend across the industry, and more customers are putting, and there are various drivers for this movement, which will come across on the next slide, right? And what we see is that customers, when they consider cloud, there is I would say, a tendency of the customers to have a strategy for specific applications, and applications which are centered around cloud, they have a specific strategy to move those applications in a time frame, right? So I'll go to the next survey finding, and this is again an interesting thing. What our customers are typically struggling when they move to cloud, or what they are finding it very important for them to realize whether they should move to cloud. And business case, right? Whenever it comes to migration to cloud, the $1 million question, am I going to save money? Am I going to operationally enhance my capabilities? So on and so forth. So a holistic business case preparation is on the top of the radar of most of our customers. And the next one is basically migration readiness assessment. So what we realized is that most of the customers typically are, I would say, not frightened, but what they think about is that when they start the cloud migration, it's always upfront preparatory work to understand what risks, what challenges, and what benefits they are undertaking or signing off, right? And that's where the readiness assessment comes in. And most of the respondents, about 45% of them, say that migration readiness assessment is a core component of their cloud migration strategy. And with this, I would say that that's something which we are absolutely geared up from a perspective that this is a core philosophy of us, that you spend time upfront when you do migration, right? So more time spent upfront when you do cloud migration or cloud adoption is always going to yield better results down the line, right? So that's pretty much what the survey also echoes and what other industry leaders are also thinking through. The next one is very specific to SAP, right? So when we talk about SAP migration, what's the time frame most of the customers are looking at, right? And with the emergence of most S4HANA, adopting S4HANA and SAP BTP platforms along with SAP RISE, what we are seeing across the industry. So most of the customers, I would say, are a year away, right? So most of the customers whom we surveyed, about 58% of them, they say that their SAP cloud migration is about a year away from now. So they are now in the planning phase, or they are in the business case preparation phase. They yet haven't started to move to cloud, but yes, they are obviously thinking of moving to cloud. That's why we say that they are convinced that they will move to cloud, but maybe a year later. And some of the customers who are in the quick horizon within next 3 months or 6 months are typically the customers who have taken up either a brownfield or a greenfield project, and the project started about 6 months or 9 months back, right? So at the time of the survey, they were either on the halfway mark of their implementation or down the line about 75% if it's a greenfield implementation. So that's why you see about 15% of the customers who are already there. And this is a very interesting side. It has a lot of data, and I know that this is one of the key reasons that everybody is going to ask, right? So why do you want to move your SAP workloads onto cloud, right? And this is very important. 59% of the customer told us that it's technology modernization, right? So they want to actually modernize the underlying technology platform on which SAP runs. And that can be basically, I would say, a lot of things adding up, right? So many customers who are in core manufacturing sectors, they say that I want to have newer capabilities to integrate my IoT, IIoT platforms, my sensor data, machine data onto the cloud platform. The edge to cloud connectivity, that's again one of the things. So there are like this enormous reasons and lots of technological modernization initiative customers are taking to move their SAP onto cloud. 54% of the respondents told us that they want to just reduce cost. It's just I would say, a cost play for them, right? So they want to get out of the CapEx business. They don't want to get into CapEx renewal. Either their data center lease is expiring, or they have to buy in new hardware, so on and so forth. And if cloud proves to be OpEx business, plus a business which is going to give them a considerable amount of cost savings, right? And we have actually a poll for you guys, right, which basically talks about some of this. And we want to understand from you that what you guys are thinking of a typical cost savings when you move to cloud. So the next one is basically scale to meet business demands. And this is, again, 42% is a lot of numbers, because if we have been talking in a pre-COVID era, this number would have been, say, about 25 to 30%, right? So we did a voice of customer about a couple of years back, and the number was in the range of about 20 to 25%. But now within the post-COVID era, with so much business uncertainties evolving, customers want flexibility, right? The flexibility of choice, flexibility of performance, flexibility of winding up or winding down, right? So all these flexibilities become very important because their business is unpredictable. The business models are becoming unpredictable. That's why we see most of the customers now are coming back and say that they want to meet up their business needs, and they want a platform which can actually go up or go down with their business requirements, right? And there are certain other reasons like mergers and acquisition, SAP technological upgrades, new business functionality, so on and so forth. But the first four reasons, I think, are very important reasons, and we are seeing it across our customer landscapes, right? So most of our customers who we are working with, right, for their SAP migration to cloud, they're coming back to us, and one of these or multiple, two of these four reasons do emerge in the conversations we have with our customers. Ganesh, you want to chime in something? Hey, Ganesh, you are on mute.
If you look at the trend, there's definitely a need for adopting cloud from a modernization perspective. The companies are already thinking, they have either chosen already a hyperscaler or in the process of choosing a hyperscaler. But what they're figuring out is actually the business case. How do I do it? Have I figured out all the impact to my ecosystem, and how do I bring predictability, right? And that's where I think unraveling that and kind of simplifying that is that where we come with the partnership with AWS and Intel as well, right? So definitely a need in the market, but helping customers in that journey is what they're trying to figure out. And I think we will be expecting to see that momentum grow in the next 3 to 6 months.
Absolutely. Amy, what's your view on this? You are again speaking on mute, Amy. Yeah.
Later, but it makes a lot of sense and is very aligned with the lens that we're seeing things with over at Intel as well.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Amy.
Wonderful. So now what we'll do is that in aligned to this whole theme of what we just talked about, and many of this will definitely come up. Sunny is laughing, right? So Sunny knows that most of these things is going to come up of why AWS is the greatest platform in this world and so on and so forth, which is eventually going to come. So Sunny, over to you, and you can go ahead.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Ganesh, for the details on the survey. And I think you're right. We are going to talk on the same lines that how surveying these customers are aligned with cloud, moving to cloud benefits. So I'll take you through your next few slides talking about customers' choice for migrating SAP to AWS, AWS global infrastructure, innovation platform, and cost savings. I think that's the key which everyone is looking for when you migrate SAP workloads to AWS. Let's talk about customers' choice for migrating SAP workloads to AWS. AWS provides you with various choices and proven approaches to SAP on cloud success. Whether you're looking for lift and shift your SAP environment, move to HANA while you're still on ECC, we also call it Suite on HANA migration, or migrate directly to S/4HANA, or innovate and transform with AWS native services, we can help you get more value out of your SAP investments in any of these approaches. Let's talk about these approaches briefly. So lift and shift. For many customers, bring their existing R3 or ECC application to AWS as is the best starting point, as it allows them to realize a rapid time to value while minimizing operations disruption. You can tap into 200 plus AWS services to innovate, provision resources as you need them, and only pay for what you use. Customers like Restaurant Brand International, the owners of Burger King, Popeye Chicken, and Tim Hortons, brought ECC on Oracle to AWS, leading to 83% CapEx reduction and 18% OpEx reduction with a 28% performance increase. Second option, migrate to Suite on HANA. There are customers who stay on ECC but want to move from any DB to SAP HANA as their part of migration to AWS. This provides them the in-memory capability of HANA, often leads to reduced technical debt because they're getting rid of legacy databases, and sets the stage to move to S/4HANA down the line. Companies like Newmont acquired Goldcorp in 2019, the largest acquisition in the history of gold industry. To consolidate their disparate ECC systems across the two companies' landscape, they moved to Suite on HANA on AWS. While this saved them $500,000 in annual infrastructure cost, it also gave them greater security and agility and paving the way for S/4HANA migration later. Other approach can be migrate to S/4HANA directly. If you have a clear business case for S/4HANA today, or you are driving a broader digital transformation, then this approach might make sense for you. You tackle the ECC end of support now, and gain the capabilities included in S/4HANA, like industry-specific workflows or simplified data model with S/4HANA. Companies like Bristol Myers Squibb recently used SAP's selective data transition tool to move from ECC to S/4HANA on AWS. Or if you still want to have other option, you can choose innovate with AWS native services and go beyond SAP's landscape benefits. There are customers tapping into full richness of AWS platform to drive innovative use cases in technical, line of business, or industry level, but both aligned with ECC and S/4HANA integration. I'll take a customer example. Invista has a data lake that combines SAP data from ECC with other enterprise data in S3. Then they use AWS analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning services for demand forecasting and predictive maintenance. In total, they estimate these improvements will net them $300 million in business value. You choose any of these approach to migrate to AWS, we can help de-risk and simplify your path to HANA or S/4HANA on AWS on a timeline that makes sense for your business needs. I think there are various choices available for you as a customer to choose from when you start your journey to migrate to AWS from on-premise. Let's talk about cost. I think one of the greatest feature or benefit of migrating SAP workload or workloads to AWS is cost. There are different aspects of cost optimization. Let's start with instance selection and sizing. Today, AWS customers have access to more than 400 EC2 instance types. And looking specifically at SAP, more than 150 EC2 instance types are supported for SAP NetWeaver. And nearly 50 are certified for SAP HANA in production to support running your workload on AWS. The flexibility provided with instance types helps you to choose the right instance type and right instance size, which meets your business needs. You don't have to over-provision your hardware. If you have a specific set of SAP environment needs, like you're testing a project and you need the environment for only 2 weeks, you may just go for on-demand for those 2 weeks, spin up your instances, use them, and pay for what you use, and just dissolve those instances. You don't have to worry about hardware refreshes anymore. You take advantage of AWS global infrastructure for your business needs. Going further, to help you further on your migration, there are credits, incentives, and partner support available via Migration Acceleration Program that is mapped for SAP. There are criteria and specific scenarios we can work with you to define the best path to AWS with available credits and incentives. Talking about cost, and obviously we need to talk about price reductions. While we deliver innovations and enhancements across our services, we also push ourselves to lower prices for our customers, something AWS has done 106 times since we started back in 2006. In 2020, we reduced prices across the popular SAP certified instances M5, C5, and R5 families through both standard EC2 RIs and savings plan. These reductions offered up to 18% of savings. And even after migrating to AWS, we work with you consistently and closely to optimize your cost by reviewing your SAP landscape time to time. There are architecture reviews available. We can work with you to optimize your cost and lower the cost for running SAP workloads on AWS. So moving from cost to innovation, AWS platform and services can integrate with SAP to provide native cloud value to your business. Instead of customizing at application level, many AWS customers are moving towards model where they keep the ERP core clean and differentiate at higher level by integrating with AWS services, either natively or via BTP, SAP Business Technology Platform. Talking about services now, in 2011, AWS released over 80 new significant services and features, followed by just the double of 2011, 160 in 2012. And it grew year on year to 2,345 in 2019. And 2,757 new services and features released in late last December in reInvent 2020. Our pace of innovation to support customers' business need is unmatchable. And out of these, 90% of these services are developed backwards with customers' feedback. And others 10% is based on our understanding that what customers might need in future. So we work with customers and partners hand in hand to optimize their SAP migration and workload on AWS. I'll take another customer example here for innovation, Moderna. I mean, we are living this phase of COVID-19. Moderna is a key player in circulating COVID-19 vaccine. They use SAP on AWS as cornerstone for their ecosystem, which then uses AWS services to connect with manufacturing instruments, robotics, and other integral systems. Recently, they worked with our AWS professional services in SAP team to implement infrastructure as code and high availability for their S/4HANA system to support the distribution of COVID-19 vaccine to more than 30 countries. This was one of the big achievements in near term, using the innovation of native AWS services and SAP on AWS. So we talk about cost savings, we talk about innovation. I think let's talk about global infrastructure, which is the backbone of these savings and innovation and automation. I think disruption to operational process in SAP is extremely expensive, which is why you cannot settle for a good enough infrastructure. When you come to AWS, you run your SAP systems on most reliable, performant, and extensive global infrastructure footprint you can find anywhere. When it comes to supporting mission-critical workloads like SAP, it's about more than just having instances and data centers. It's about giving customers an assurance that workloads are highly available and more fault tolerant than what would be practical in your own data center or in an on-premise data center. I'll take an example here. So when we define our own on-premise data center, we have a primary site, and then we define a secondary site, which is majorly DR. So technically, our highly available solution is within the same data center. The way we work at AWS is there is a global region. Region has a lot of region is comprised of availability zones, and availability zones are further comprised of data centers. So to give you a highly available or fault tolerant system, we are working within the region with multiple availability zones with multiple data centers. We are trying to create a fine balance between latency and still far enough that it gives you high availability in terms of a whole region. AWS regions are comprised of multiple availability zones or AZs that provides high availability, high scalability, high fault tolerance. Applications and data are replicated in real time, are consistent across AZs, availability zones. Every region has at least 2 availability zones, and most have 3. Today, AWS offers 2x the regions with multiple AZs than the next closest cloud provider, giving you the flexibility to architect for both short and long-term HA and DR scenarios. That's the key. I think when you define your highly available environment and your disaster recovery scenario, AWS gives you that options and flexibility with data centers in AZs or availability zones, and multiple availability zones in the regions, and multiple regions across the globe. We have 25 regions and 81 availability zones across the globe. So it gives you that robust infrastructure to create your flexible SAP landscape on AWS. Let's talk about automation. I think one of the key factors which I feel when you are migrating to AWS or you're migrating to cloud, when you run your SAP systems on AWS, I think one of the important aspect is automation. Automation can save you a lot of money over the period of time, because you are focusing on automation. You are focusing on your business value rather than manual work. We help our customers simplify operations and management, so their valuable personnel can focus on things that drive business impact. As per Gartner report, they estimate that most IT departments actually spend significant more time on personnel than they do on infrastructure or software. The staff time is used for things that simply keep things up and running, keep the lights on scenario, or just execute the scripts manually or things like that. Automating manual tasks is one of the simplest ways to accelerate innovation. to help customers with their cloud journey for SAP migration to AWS, we launched AWS Launch Wizard for SAP, which is designed for new SAP workloads deployment on AWS or migrate existing on-premise SAP workloads to AWS. It provides a guided experience for configuring and deploying SAP-related infrastructure in matter of couple of hours. And when we talk about Launch Wizard, it's a bottom-up tool. It gives you everything from scratch. It gives you infrastructure provisioning, HANA deployment, your application deployment with high availability configured within matter of couple of hours. You can use AWS backend agent to simplify your HANA backup strategy. By using purpose-built tools like this, AWS Launch Wizard, AWS backend agent, Twitch, one of our customers, is reducing SAP deployment time by more than 75%. Zalora, one of our other customers, they use serverless AWS technologies to refresh their SAP system in 2 days, less than half the time it will take if it done manually on-premise. I think that's one of the key things, that all these manual things which we do over and over on the period of time when we're running SAP on-premise or anywhere, we have system refreshes, we have backup strategies, we have system deployments, we have system copies for sometimes test environment. I think if you have an automation around these tasks, you can get more value out of your SAP investments at AWS. With that summary of AWS innovation and global infrastructure, I would like to hand it over to Amy from Intel to talk about Intel's continued collaboration with us to help our customers run their workload on AWS.
So Amy, before you start, Sunny, I had a question, and typically
Yes.
I ask this question from most of the customers, right? So a lot of customers are still in their legacy SAP ecosystem, right? With ECC and the earlier legacy ecosystem, right? Definitely they have a path towards S4HANA, and some of them go through a consolidation and then move to S4. So there are different paths they take, but there's a longer lead time by when they reach that end state of S4HANA, right? So I often ask this question of, what is the value if you have to move the existing workload on the cloud and then move to S4, or do I do the move to cloud along with S4, or what are the other paths I should take, right? So what would be your guidance to customers?
Sure. And I think, so that question, I think there are so many options around that. So I talked about it, that lift and shift,
right,
or go to Suite on HANA, or directly go to S4 HANA. There are business cases. I think people have used, I think cloud is a journey. So you start with something basic. Maybe you want to have your DR running on AWS. That's just to start with, where you are running your DR landscape on AWS, where you're not maintaining your DR as a data center separately, and you're saving cost there. And then you're thinking about lift and shift, which can save you cost, because I think there are basics there that a lot of times we run an N+1 landscape, which N+1 landscape might just be sitting idle for months if you're not running a project. You use AWS there, you utilize on-demand instance spinning, and you use for your testing and resolve it. So you gain benefits out of different options available at AWS as part of SAP workload.
Yeah. So the time is always now, right? It's never wait. Don't wait for it. That's
exactly. That's what I feel. It's a journey that you will never be that, okay, today I'm on premise and tomorrow I'm on cloud. It's a journey, I think, and that's how you gain the benefits out of cloud. That you start moving to AWS, you start doing lift. Let's say if it makes sense for you, lift and shift. Let's do that lift and shift, and then you start modernizing with Suite on HANA migration or S4 HANA migration or AWS native service integration, which can give you more value for money out of SAP landscape.
Yeah. And other question we get asked is, companies are also toying with this idea of whether to go with a hybrid cloud or go in with all in on AWS, right? Why should they go in all in on AWS, right? What would be your answer to that?
I think the biggest benefit of cloud is economies of scale.
Yeah.
So when you are distributing your landscape across, or you're creating hybrid landscape, I think you're not benefiting out of economies of scale. When you are purchasing at bulk, I think that discount, that economies of scale you get out of AWS cloud is immense. So that's what I recommend. And overall, your operations also is simplified when you're part of a single cloud. Your operations is simplified, which is often overlooked, that the amount of time and money and effort you spend on operations over the period of time, it's not just part of, I guess, migration or one-time implementation. I think it's operations as well. So operations and economies of scale, these are the key things when deciding for AWS cloud.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add, we as a company have taken that journey, right, to move all in on. Listen, we are seeing those benefits. So glad to be on that bandwagon. Yeah. Over to you, Amy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sunny. That was good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, Sunny. Okay, so I'm really excited to share with you all more on the Intel partnerships with AWS and SAP. And then I want to speak to some of the things that Sunny mentioned with regard to the partner programs such as MAP, but I'll incorporate that in as I go here. So first, I just want to mention that, true to Intel's form, most of our partnerships really start with an engineering to engineering collaboration. So, our objective is to ensure that all of the software solutions run best on Intel architecture. And so AWS and SAP are no different. So also, we share a collective focus around digital transformation and high performance and cost savings. And I also want to mention that, the way that Intel goes to market from a sales initiative with our customers is through partners like LTI. And so we leverage those partners that have a shared customer obsession of value that both Intel and Amazon have. And we look for trusted partners to go deliver on that promise to the customers. So on the left, you have the Intel Amazon partnership, and really our focus there around technical enabling is across the solutions at Amazon as well as partner solutions, including SAP HANA. And then on the right, you can see our partnership with SAP really is the life cycle span of solutions from pathfinding all the way through to marketing and sales. So it's a great combination for us to partner with these two organizations and then leverage our broader partnership, the ecosystem, for delivering customer value in their migration to cloud. So let's talk about why Intel and SAP in the AWS cloud. SAP certified instances running on Intel technology allow you to affordably increase your database capacity in AWS. And this is really based on three pillars. The first is enabling a single source of truth, which allows you to grow your business value through faster insights. And then run on pre-validated certified SAP HANA cloud instances, which creates a safer environment and allows you to future-proof your cloud investment. And just to add to what Sunny was saying earlier, we do believe that upgrading to the latest available instances helps to ensure data security and integrity and allows you to gain that support for modern use cases like containers. Data in these use cases is continuously being produced and needs to be analyzed in real time for future-proofing. And then last, simplify your SAP HANA landscape, which allows you to achieve a higher return on your cloud investment. And so back to what Sunny was saying about economies of scale, it's really important if you want to see the true value of your migration to AWS. And consolidating your SAP HANA nodes can reduce your TCO up to 52% lower cost per server for scale up. So let's talk about the customer benefits of Intel-based SAP solutions on AWS. First, Intel really is the breadth and depth of the AWS data centers. We have over 220 instance types in the data centers across the regions that Sunny mentioned earlier. And of those, roughly 42 are certified for SAP. And so you've got the biggest number of options available in your AWS landscape for SAP deployments. AWS has the most SAP instances for scale up and scale out exclusively powered by Intel Xeon scalable platforms. This allows for up to 24 terabytes of memory for SAP certified. There is out-of-the-box integration native to AWS, and it allows for simple management using tools, the ones that Sunny mentioned earlier, as well as AWS CLI, Console, and AWS's identity and access management. So together, this combination really allows for the flexibility to scale and resize in minutes, but to start where you're at and then grow as needed. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk further with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. So Sunny, if you can just talk to, when typically customers, when they are trying to do their sizing and starting this journey, right? What are the first few things they need to set in order internally, right, before they embark on this cloud journey, right? Because I think the foundation is important to get the maximize the value out of cloud, right? So if you can just throw some light on that.
Sure. Okay. So as I said, I think this is a journey, and internally they need to understand what is a mission critical system and where to start. Right? As soon as they have those details, I think first is, we call it assessment phase. If you look at our MAP, migration acceleration program, also we call it assessment phase.
Right.
And there we look at, okay, what is currently you're running, what is the utilization you're looking at, what are your critical systems, how many production systems you have, are you looking at RPO, RTO for your disaster recovery, high availability, what is your RPO, RTO, define that. That's one of the key aspects, I guess, people, when they need to migrate to AWS, that's one of the key aspects, because that's how you define your fault tolerant and highly available system.
Right.
And then I think there are other few things like, are you needing, or do you need specific instances throughout your journey, which is more of your test instances, or as I mentioned, N+1 landscape, which is needed only during a project cycle. What kind of projects do you run? Do you run often projects throughout the year? Do you need to commit to that compute? So I think basic questions towards your backup strategy, I'll say at a very high level, towards your RPO, RTO definition, towards your understanding of your mission critical applications. And then maybe the next phase, which is mobilize, you start doing a proof of concept and do a pilot. And with partners like you, we have worked on so many deals and so many customers that we go hand in hand on the discovery phase and then help them do the pilot and migrate them.
Yeah.
Sunny, just to add.
Go ahead, Amy.
Just add to that, if there are other partners on and the like, Intel works with partners like LTI when it comes to MAP and adds an additional amount toward that MAP mobilize or modernize and migrate phases. So we're happy to talk more about the investments that Intel is making to make sure that these migrations go smoothly and the customer has all of the resources at their fingertips to have the best experience in that migration.
Absolutely. So it's a white glove treatment, right? I mean, that's how we just make sure that, we do that. Kind of related to Sunny, what you were saying, is also another question we get asked is, obviously most of the companies are a very complex ecosystem, either through acquisitions, things like that, right? So outside of the SAP workload, there are some of these point applications they have, right? So in terms of sequencing, is that a sequence they should think about at all? Or do they move the bigger workloads first and then the smaller workloads? Is there some method to this madness?
I think that's where I think you have it's very customer or subjective conversation.
Right.
I think And that's that's what we do in our SS phase, along with partners like you, that we start discovering their need. We start talking to them what makes sense for them to move first to gain the most benefit out of the cloud migration and still have less disruption. So we don't want to just migrate and start fixing the issue. Rather,
Right.
we want to have a method to this madness. That okay, yes, there is a lot of things to be considered as we talk about moving SAP workloads, and then beyond SAP workloads where you need AWS native integration to SAP, right? So I think it's more we work with customers to define their business needs in assessment phase and discovery phase and take it from there. It's very customer to customer where we understand their need and start talking about different phases. And that's where Amy came in, and we talked about Map for SAP. To offset initial cost, we have Map for SAP funding programs, and then we have Intel along with Map for SAP.
And there's an art and a science to it, right? In terms of how we do it.
And again, depending on, as I said, very customer to customer specific needs. Sometimes we start as small as just moving the backups to cloud. That this is quick and easy. Let's start moving backups so that when you move your backup to S3, it saves you cost. Right. Then you start moving your DR scenarios. Then you start moving your small applications. Or sometimes there is a dire need that we need to have technical debt out of our way. We need to move ECC right away. Right. So depending on customer to customer scenario, we define their assessment and discovery phase.
Awesome. DJ, if you can also chime in on, obviously there's an application layer foundation also which needs to be done, right? What's your view on that? I mean, is that, how do you kind of tag team in a way, right? With the foundation at the hyperscaler level as well, right? So if you just throw some light on that.
Sure, Ganesh. So in terms of application layer, right? So I totally agree to what Sunny was saying, right? So every customer has a specific approach towards how they want to solve this problem, right? So at an application layer, what we are seeing as a trend across our customers, across whom we are working closely, is most of the customers take this opportunity when they do the cloud migration to uplift their application stack. Because at the end of the day, at the back of the mind, most of the customers are thinking about S4 or their digital core, right? And S4 requires a basic minimum level of application modernization, right? Say EHP 8, NetWeaver 7.5, and customers who are on the older version, we are seeing them, they take this opportunity to uplift their application onto a, I would say, S4 conversion ready state. And then on cloud, they run their S4 transformation, either brownfield, greenfield, selective data migration, so that they take most of the benefits, right? So they basically, I would say, kill two birds with one arrow, right? So they take the cloud benefits, they upgrade their technology landscape.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's no reason not to embark on this journey, right? And as you said, there's a multiple ways to skin the cat, and we have the tools, the expertise to kind of venture on this journey, right? So thanks.
I will share,
go ahead.
I will share a very important thing, as Sunny mentioned about this launch wizard, right? So recently, for a pharmaceutical company in India, we took a challenge called the 10-day challenge, right? And it's very important to understand what is that 10-day challenge. So I worked with Sunny on that for a couple of days. So effectively, the customer had I would say, on the second week of the month, the customer realized that on week 4, he will have an on-premise capacity constraint because of certain activities. And then the customer came back to us, actually to AWS, and we worked together to solve the problem that how do we move their entire non-production environment to AWS 10 days to release spare capacity for production. So their production, non-production, all were on the same virtualized environment, and they have to release production capacity for production. So in 10 days, we took a challenge using Launch Wizard, through lots of custom scripting, so on and so forth. We found out a solution to automate, I would say, to the nth degree, and move 3 non-production environments, that is sandbox, development, and quality, over within 10 days onto AWS, and freed, I would say, close to about 2 racks of hardware for him.
Wow. And that's what automation and these engines bring to the table, that we are not looking at days or weeks or months of hardware procurement
Right.
or setting of the hardware cycle anymore. I mean, we are looking at hours, a couple of hours to set up the whole thing, including your application installation, database installation, and infrastructure provisioning with high availability setup.
Yeah. And in today's pandemic world, the agility that brings in is just priceless, right? So absolutely. Uh, Great. I think good conversation. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Sunny, for taking the time, and thanks to all the participants for joining in. I think this recording will be available for you to play back at any point of time. So, any further questions, any regarding the map recipe funding, anything related to the technical, how do you want to embark on the journey? We'd be more than happy to follow up with the details with everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for taking time. Thank you.